So you run a hot job as a machinist and something along the way went wrong, a mistake was made, and the parts are no good. Now, your boss wants you to come in and fix the parts for free? What's up guys, Ian Sandusky from Lakewood Machine Tool back here again for Practical Machinist. And today on Shop Talk, we're gonna be diving back into the Practical Machinist forums to address a poster who came on with exactly this question. But before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so to recap the situation we described very quickly at the beginning of this video, a guy came on to the shop management and ownership subforum of the Practical Machinist forums with a bit of a situation on his hands. From the way he described it, he is a machinist working at a shop, and this is important for the way the story goes. He does not own this shop. He does not have any kind of controlling interest in the shop. He is not a shareholder. He is just a guy working at a shop, as a lot of us do. The situation as he told it was that a big order of parts had come in, and as a lot of these things tend to go, it was a hot job. Customer needed parts yesterday, get these done, get them out the door. And digging a little deeper into the post, which we'll link below here, it sounds like somewhere along the way, something went wrong. A mistake was made. And it's important to point out when we're talking about these kind of posts and questions that we know we're only getting one side of the story. This is one guy coming on and telling us the situation as he knows it. We cannot possibly go and get further information on this. We have to assume they're telling the truth. And for this kind of story, for what we're gonna deal with here, it doesn't really matter because this situation as it's illustrated does come up. I have heard of it before. So regardless of whether the story is 100% accurate or not, I don't really think is important because the core takeaway is going to be the same. That said, in any case, it was described that something to do with this really big hot run of parts had some kind of critical feature to it, or set of critical features. They didn't really specify whether it was one or multiple features. Very, very tight tolerance features that were critical to the proper functioning of the part. This didn't sound like it was just an engineer doing engineer things and over tolerancing a part. This had some kind of critical function with these critical tolerances and features that was called out on the drawing. Now, the guy who was describing this story said that a bit of an error was made, and it sounded like it could have been when the customer sent the drawing, or it could have been the management when they created the shop work order for it. But it was not properly called out, according to this guy, that the critical features we're talking about, those tolerances applied after plating. So these parts that come in, they machine them, they send them out for some kind of plating, and when they come back from plating, that's when those critical features need to be in tolerance. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, this is really important information to know if you're running parts that need to get some kind of surface treatment. Some surface treatments like polishing or some kinds of acid etch, or some surface treatments are going to make your part smaller by the time they're done. So if the part starts at 1 inch, by the time you get back from treatment, they're gonna be slightly under 1 inch. Other kinds of treatments like plating, some kinds of anodizing, definitely paint, are going to increase the size. They're gonna add on to your part. So if the part goes out at 1 inch, by the time it comes back from anodizing or whatever, it's gonna be slightly over 1 inch. So it's important to know, A, whether that tolerance is before or after plating or whatever it may be. I mean, you should kind of know, but it's important to know. And B, it's important to know what kind of treatment you're doing, because then you can go, like, let's say you're doing some kind of anodizing. There are formulas out there that you can go and punch in your numbers and, look at charts and say, all right, so if this bore needs to be here by the time it's done, I need to make it a little bit bigger, so by the time it comes back from anodizing or whatever, it's gonna be in spec. This happens all the time. You aerospace guys, defense guys, you guys deal with this probably more than your average job shop. But the way the guy described this company, it did not sound like some kind of fly-by-night operation. This sounds like something they probably should have known and been on top of. So in any case, the guy makes the parts, sends them out, they come back from plating, they go out to the customer, and the parts get rejected. Now, they got rejected, but they did get returned for rework. They didn't just throw these things in the garbage. which to me means whatever kind of plating was put on there, it grew the part, so now they can go and remachine that bore and replate, or, you know, face down the two sides of the part and replate in order to salvage the parts. Again, this did not sound like some kind of, you know, bootstrappy operation. Apparently this place had their own QA department, and these parts did get past quality assurance. So again, we're kind of building on the layers that there were some mistakes made at this place. Despite all that, the real issue in this post that the guy was coming to the forum with was that the shop owner, the guy who owns the shop, I believe he's the owner, not just the manager, was now saying that this guy had to come in and rework the parts, but he was not going to be paid for the time that he was reworking these parts because it was his mistake. So essentially, the owner wants him to come in and work for free to fix his mistake. And the guy had said in this post that he was something like 10 hours into this free work already, and there were quite a few more to go. So he was coming on to ask the forum essentially, A, is this normal? B, is this even legal? And C, what should I do about it? The answers he got, this is a bit of an older thread, so it was a very long thread, but some of the answers he got were very much what I would agree with. Some people said some stuff that I would not agree with at all, but we're not gonna focus on that. We're gonna focus more on the things I would agree with, because we could spend all day saying things that are wrong. It's not really helpful. So let's talk about the things I would agree with in the advice that he got. The first point that I would like to agree with that I saw in this thread many, many times, which was very nice to see, is that in most places, this is not even legal. I believe he said somewhere in that forum post that he was in California. And while I'm not gonna pretend to know California labor laws, I'm not even gonna pretend to dig into them. I'm just going off what I read very quickly and the laws in my own area, because in the Western world, this is all pretty much the same. The only exception would be some kind of crazy contract law that I also do not pretend to understand. So, you know, this is not legal advice. Look into it in your area. But in just about everywhere, this kind of you work for free to fix a mistake is not legal. And a lot of people called that out. You cannot be forced to work for free outside of some exceptional circumstances that, again, I do not pretend to understand. But it's always worth looking into if someone is trying to put you into the situation, whether it is legal or not. Because 90% of the time, if this is the situation, the answer is no, it is not legal. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We always like to think, you know, our customers, our bosses, our coworkers, we like to always think that we're dealing with rational, normal people. When you put money on the line, especially money coming out of someone's pocket, you cannot assume that you are dealing with normal, rational thinking people, because money makes people weird and makes people do weird things, and you cannot trust that everything they're saying is going to be a normal, rational, logical thing. Especially when it comes to a shop where you're working for someone else. You should work somewhere where you feel like your best interests are being looked out for. At the end of the day, you need to be your own advocate. You need to look out for yourself. You cannot trust and rely on anyone else 100% to look out for you. That is your responsibility. So it's always worth looking into these things to make sure you're not being taken advantage of. Legality aside, the next point that I agreed with wholeheartedly was that even if this somehow was legal, it's wrong. Flat out, guys, this is wrong. As a shop owner, this is the other side of things. You know, as a shop owner, if you get lucky, you work hard, you know, the dice roll right for you and things go well, yeah, you have the opportunity to make a lot more money than a guy working on the floor. It's the reality of it. Yeah, you have to pony up for, you know, the rent, the machines, the liability, all that. But that's just the reality of it. Yes, you have an opportunity to make some more money. The flip side of it is, that liability is also your responsibility as a shop owner. It's your name on the door, it's your name on the bank account, and it's your name on every part that goes out. You know, my shop is Lakewood Machine Tool. I don't send out a part that's bad and then it comes back and say, no, that wasn't Lakewood Machine Tool, that was just one of my guys. No, it's all Lakewood Machine Tool. It's my responsibility. You know, if bad parts are going out your door, as a shop owner, it is your fault. End of story. If the person running the job wasn't trained properly, that's your fault. If the person running the job wasn't paying attention, that's also your fault because you weren't staying on top of them, or the people that you hired to stay on top of them were not staying on top of them. Again, your fault. If the person running the job is an idiot, as some people like to say, again, your fault. You hired them and you trained them. End of story. If the engineer from the customer didn't specify on this drawing whether the part was supposed to grow or shrink or whatever it was, yeah, you know what, it's their fault, but it's also your fault for not catching it. As a shop owner, as the guys who are quoting out your work, if you did it personally, you're quoting it out. If you know that part's getting plated and you see a tight tolerance, it's on you to catch it. Yeah, you can go back and forth with the customer then and see whatever's happening there, but it's certainly not the guy on the floor's fault for not catching that. That's what I'm trying to say. And like, to put it further, at my own shop, guys, my guys have screwed up some jobs. My guys here that work here have screwed up some huge jobs and created some huge headaches. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. But the flip side of that is I have also screwed up a lot of jobs. I have quoted things incorrectly. I have sent parts out the door that are no good personally. I have crashed machines. When I was an apprentice, I remember we once did a job and I did a full skid of parts, 48 inches high by 48 by 42, whatever a skid is. I sent them out for paint because I was in charge that day for whatever reason of the shipping. I sent them out, they came back and they were painted the wrong color. And it wouldn't have mattered because the customer hadn't even ordered that part. I made the wrong part. And to top it off, the paint code was for a different customer than those parts that didn't get ordered. So it's not like we could even put them on the shelf and send them out another day. Thousands of dollars out the door. It's not like my guys are worse than I am. It's not like I'm worse than they are. These mistakes happen, guys. And you need to be aware of that as a shop owner. Just because you're not on the floor anymore doesn't mean you're now immune from any kind of responsibility. The whole point is that mistakes happen. And as a shop owner, this is what other guys were saying there as well. Regardless of whose fault it was, you have to look at it like a training opportunity. Yeah, it might be an expensive one. Hopefully it takes your $100 an hour job down to $50 an hour and not a negative $50 an hour. But if the mistake has already happened, you can only look at it as trying to make it right and train and learn from it. That was a really expensive way of identifying a problem at your shop. You just got a very hard lesson in the fact that your QA department is not doing their jobs. Or you got a very hard lesson in that you do not have the right people in charge monitoring what's going out the door, and now you need to do something about it. It's a lesson to get learned. You're already paying for it, so you have to try to find the positives out of it. And that's what guys on the forum said as well. There were guys there that said not only would they pay their guys to do this work, because they do, and I do as well, if overtime needs to happen to get these fixed parts out the door to salvage the job for the customer, yeah, you're paying for that too. It's the reality of the way this goes. In no circumstance should someone be working for free, even if they offer to. I have had guys before, say, oh, I messed this up. I'll come in on my own time and fix it. No. That's not the way it goes. It's not your responsibility to bail this job out. Yeah, if you want to work some overtime, sure. That's on you. That's your decision. I'll pay you for it. But that's not your responsibility. It's my responsibility for letting this happen. At the end of the day, does this absolve everyone who's not the shop owner of any responsibility? No, no one is saying that. It is the shop owner and management team's responsibility to correct these things. It doesn't mean that if you are not a shop owner, you can do whatever you want and it's all on them. That's kind of all what I'm gonna say there. But, to kind of further this along, if you have one guy who's always screwing everything up and doesn't care, you can only try to fix it so many times. Maybe you have to part ways with them. That is also your responsibility as a shop owner for the good of your company. But when we're talking about directly in this scenario, under no circumstance should someone work for free, even if it was their fault that this mistake happened. In any case, guys, I'd like to know in the comments below, have you ever had a situation like this come up? Have you ever had a boss try to get you to work for free? As a boss, I don't want to say if you ever tried to get anybody to work for free because I don't want to hear about it. You shouldn't be doing that. So as an employee, have you ever seen this happen What happened? How did you deal with it? What advice would you give to this, this poster? I would love to hear it in the comments below. In any case, I would like to know what you guys thought of this video. Do you want to see more form posting videos? What kind of stuff do you guys want to see? Also, please let me know in the comments below. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications below to make sure you never miss a video. Thank you very much for watching, guys. You take care.